On Politics HQ tonight, here are some stories that made our headlines. The Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, has announced plans to file a public interest lawsuit against President Bola Ahmed Tinubu following a raid by the Department of State Services on its Abuja office. SERAP aims to compel the president to reverse the recent fuel price hike and investigate corruption allegations within the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited. Also, Amnesty International has condemned the Federal High Court in Abuja for imposing its termed punitive bail condition on 10 end-bad governance protesters facing treason charges. The organization urged the government to stop using restrictive bail terms to detain activists. In a series of tweets, Amnesty International pointed out the harsh conditions, which include a 10 million naira bond for each protester and the need for sureties with landed properties. Well, our focus tonight on the program will be on the state of the Nigerian economy and how Nigerians are pulling through. I am Debo Adeniran. Welcome, let's get some answers. The federal government has said that Nigeria's financial sector grew by over 30% in the first half of 2024. The Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun, represented by the Managing Director of the Ministry of Finance Incorporated, Dr. Armstrong Takang, pointed out that Nigeria's gross domestic product had improved, with growth rising from 3% the first quarter to 3.2% in the second quarter of 2022, with hopes of reaching a 3.7% target by the end of the year. He noted that sectors such as transportation, wholesale, retail, trade, and also manufacturing had experienced slower growth. While in spite of this reported growth, Nigerians still struggle to feed themselves and sustain their lives, largely due to the removal of petrol subsidy and hyperinflation. Well, on the program tonight to discuss this, joining me is Nelson Ekujuni, he's a political analyst. He joins virtually from Lagos. I also have Debo Adeniran, is the chairman, Center for Anti-Corruption and Open Leadership. And also Mazi Dickson Iroegbu is a convener of the Indigenous People of Nigeria, IPN, and also Shola Omolayo, a public affairs analyst. Gentlemen, thank you for your time.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
All right, let me start off with you, Nelson. What do you make of this report by the finance minister saying that Nigeria had experienced about 30%, in terms of growth in the first half?
Well, the reports or the information from the Honorable Minister for Finance must have been gotten from facts and data collected by relevant agencies of states. And it is not lost on us that that is the responsibility of some institutions to gather these facts and avail us for us to be able to decide whether the economy is improving or not. Whether the inflationary rates or the economic hardship is affecting the people does not take away the fact that data have to be collected. And when data are collected, they have to be processed for us to know where we stand. So I see nothing wrong in the data that the minister has announced, the information the minister has given us, except if there are other persons who have collected data and they have a contrary, fact to buttress their own position on it.
I mean, you said you see nothing wrong in the data, but does this reflect the actual reality of the average Nigerian, in your opinion?
The actual reality of the average Nigerian does not take away the reality of data gathering. It does not take that away. Data have to be gathered based on parameters of economic indices. Whether the average Nigerian is going through economic hardship and is finding it difficult to feed does not take away the fact that the GDP is on the rise. And that data is there in the public domain. So if anybody has problems with that data, then they have to come up with, the right data. If you want to tell us or me that data is faulty, then you have to, come up with your own data, explaining how you arrived at yours. So data gathering has nothing to do with how you feel or what you are going through. That is a different ballgame entirely. But when we talk in terms of the GDP, we are not talking in terms of what you are feeding. We are talking in terms of production, gross domestic products of a country. We are not talking about whether electricity tariff has gone up or whether the cost of transportation, goods and services have gone up. No, that is a different data entirely. And you can see it from the data that has been released by the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, NBS, over time. As we speak, we are told that the inflationary rate is about 34%. And nobody can come up and say, no, it is not. And if you are coming up to counter that, then you must be ready to provide us what the real information or the real percentage is.
All right, let me leave you for a moment, Nelson. Let me invite Mazi Iroegbu on this conversation right now. I mean, you had what the finance minister did say, saying that the GDP experienced a boost in the first and second quarter. I mean, looking at this vis-a-vis what we are seeing on the streets, what we are seeing with companies in the country, the realities on ground, what's your take?
Well, thank you very much once again. Listen, data doesn't make sense if the true picture, like you rightly asked Nelson, whether this reflects the state of the nation or the state of the Nigerian people. He didn't answer that question. His focus is on the data as released. What is important to me as a citizen of Nigeria is how the food is on the table of the Nigerian people. And like you in your opening rightly said, the Nigerian people are going through excruciating hunger. There is hunger in the land. There is anger also in the land. That is what is important. And of course, the primary purpose of governance is not to realize that it is to provide welfare of the people, is to provide security of the people. And in this area, the data reflects that the Nigerian people are not in any way excited about the state of their country. That's what is paramount to me. That's what is important. All of those stories about what NBS is releasing and all of that is cock and bull as far as, and we shouldn't live in fool's paradise. This country, the state we find ourselves, it is a terrible thing, what is going on. And to imagine that anybody can come up here, to want to make excuses or make a case for the government of the day, that in itself is another provocating stance that anybody is taking. Nelson should look at it again and ask himself, how is he faring right now? If he's faring well, how are his family members faring? If his family members are faring well, what about his neighbor? What about those, that come from where he comes from? What is he experiencing? Because I believe from the tone, from the response he has given thus far, that he is here to defend the indefensible, as we know that those who speak for government would always want to do. The truth is that our nation, Nigeria, the people of Nigeria, are going through what words cannot possibly express, if you would permit that.
Okay, I mean, maybe I should just go back to Nelson and ask him, because you did ask a question. You said, Nelson, how are you faring? So maybe I should just direct that to you, Nelson, on this one. According to Mazi Dickson, he asked, how are you faring under this economy?
Dapo. We are here to discuss the gross domestic product performance. And if that person who is asking me how I'm faring, I'm sure you are not here to discuss how I'm faring. If
But
not, you will put
I want to believe you're also a Nigerian.
Just a minute, just a minute. You
Okay.
gave me the floor, please. Just a minute. We are talking of gross domestic product. If the colleague who is speaking right there understands the meaning of GDP, he will know that there's a difference between GDP and the cost of living. They are two different things entirely. It's like he doesn't understand what GDP means. Otherwise, he won't be asking, how am I faring? The Minister for Finance has come out to say the GDP of the economy has improved in the last 2 quarters. So if you have anything contrary to that, avail us. The cost of living is another kettle of fish. The minister was not speaking about the cost of living, or the cost of transportation.
If I may, with due respect, I wasn't invited here to speak from your premise, from your point of view. It is the state of the nation. So it's not about GDP. That's not what we're discussing, except that's what you want to discuss. If that is what you want to discuss, then you probably will have to set the agenda. We are discussing the state of the nation, not as decided by you, not as defined by you.
Gentlemen, let's
minister's comments. Therefore, we are discussing the minister's comments. If we are going to discuss the state of the nation, there are several parameters that we'll discuss. We'll discuss sports, we'll discuss agri, we'll discuss security, we'll discuss
gentlemen, I'm afraid, gentlemen,
ask me a question with regards to what the minister said.
Gentlemen,
My dear brother, any other question apart from that? And that I've responded to appropriately.
Gentlemen, please, may I request, gentlemen, please, let me come in here. Thank you so much. I understand we might have, variant views. However, let's come back to the issue on ground. I would like to bring Mr. Adeniran into the conversation right now. Looking at what the finance minister has said concerning the GDP, the state of the financial economy, and the realities of Nigerians. I mean, does this GDP rub off or reflect on what Nigerians actually look like or what they are going through at the moment?
Well, thank you, DG. The truth is that the state of economy is different from the state of the nation. And Nelson has mentioned it, that is also different from situation of individual Nigerians. Sometimes the GDP may rise or fall, because when you are talking about GDP, we are talking about products. And what products are we talking about? Is it the ones produced by the state itself? Is it the ones produced by individuals and the rest of them? But then, if we don't have individual data to counter what the Minister of Finance has brought to us, then we have to flow with it. But then it is a different point that Mazi has actually made, that, okay, the positive GDP has not reflected on the individual Nigerians. Yes, it is, because everybody is feeling one pain or the other, and that the economy has not treated the people well, the way they want to be treated. That is a different ballgame entirely. A number of Nigerians have complained about their inadequate expendable resources. And that is the reason why we are crying that, look, we don't like the state of economy the way, even if the GDP is growing, by leaps and bounds on quarterly basis, as long as it doesn't reflect on the cost of living of an average Nigerian, we will still continue to complain. And what Mazi is actually saying is that it is not the state that actually matters now. It is not, because the growth of GDP is for the future of the economy, not the present. What we, the people, want is a convenient, state of economy that will make us to be able to move around, to be able to do our businesses, to be able to take care of our domestic and social needs that will make us feel comfortable in our own country. It doesn't matter whether or not the government is planning for the future, but whatever they are doing should take care, should reflect on our current state of being. That is what an average Nigerian wants to see. But then, if we plan only for today, our future may still suffer. And what government is actually saying is not actually is not what Nigerians want to hear. Okay, we cannot live our today. We cannot die today and say we are planning for the future. The future will have a way of taking care of itself. So if we are taking economic decisions, we should put the people as the object and subject of economic planning and execution. And we should not allow people to become distraught with the policy, the government's policy that will make life unbearable for them. People don't want to lose their loved ones because they cannot afford cost of medication. They do not want to withdraw their children from school just because we are planning for tomorrow, because the user cost of education is getting out of the roof. It doesn't matter even if the GDP has gone beyond 50%, but we want an economy that will serve the purpose of man, and that is the purpose of government. The government could mean well, but when meaning government is not enough, we want to live comfortable lives.
I would like to comment and pick you on that one. You said the government might mean well, but looking at the nature of the policies on ground, is this reflective of a government that is pro-people?
No, you see, being pro-people doesn't mean that things will always... In most of the countries that you see, if you talk about Rwanda didn't get to where it is. If you talk about Singapore, if you talk about China, if you talk about many of these countries that we use as examples, go and read their history, how they got to where they are. Okay? Tough decisions actually were made because things have been destroyed over the years, by the past administrations that just want to gloss over things. Okay? And to right those wrongs, we have to go through some of these tough times.
So you feel that all of these steps are steps in the right direction. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. If you listen to the United States of America, if you used to listen to United Kingdom, if you listen to even China and a few other countries in the first world, you see that they are commending the steps being taken by government. But if you ask an average Nigerian will tell you that they are not satisfied even with the good performance of the economy at that level because it's not reflecting directly on us. We want to feed ourselves today. It doesn't matter how you do it. It doesn't have to be a one fair swoop thing. It can be gradual, okay? Because even in the days of the military, when we were talking about structural adjustment program, what we kicked against was this kind of hardship. Okay? If there will be hardship, it should be bearable ones. People are experiencing unbearable hardship. And
all right.
Once it is beyond the adjustment, the economic, for so many years we've been articulating non-capitalist economic, recovery, reconstruction strategies.
All right, Mr. Adeniran.
Not affect people negatively. Yes, there should be a soothing balm that will be applied that people will not experience the kind of agony that they are going through today.
All right, Mr. Adeniran, let me leave you for a moment. Let me go back to Nelson Ekujuni. Now, the minister actually did acknowledge some sector-specific developments, especially in the areas of oil and gas, which recorded, according to him, 10% growth during the second quarter of 2024. And also the non-oil sector maintained a steady 2.8% growth rate, even though they acknowledge that some sectors, which we'll get to, are facing challenges. I would like to stay on this for now. And with you, this is also the same government that is saying there is no money, we are cash-strapped, tighten your belt, there is no, the resources are not available, in the coffers. And we are seeing this right now happen. I mean, does this not reflect a government that is contradicting itself in a way?
Well, Dapo, you recognize that when the president made the broadcast to Nigerians on May 29, he specifically mentioned that the government has been spending 97% of its resources to service debts. And those are debts incurred by his predecessors. And that they have been able to reduce it to 68%. So if you look at what has happened, for example, specifically, you are talking about the oil sector, a 2.8% growth. The growth in the oil sector today is as a result of the reduction in the money being spent on subsidizing PMS to Nigerians. And that is why that 3% has, shot up in volume. When you look at the 3%, if that fuel subsidy had not been removed, you can be rest assured that by now, a lot of workers in the federal service, in the state service, in the local government service, and even in the private sector would have been owed backlog of salaries. And that will rub off on the private sector, that some of them are dependent on the public sector, who could have massive job losses. So if the minister has come out to say we have made 2.8% growth in the oil sector, it tells you clearly that some persons are investing heavily in that industry. And like I stated earlier on, if somebody has come up with a position and has told me that this is the road, if somebody else now come ahead and said this is not the road, the question I'll ask him, please, can you show me where the real road is? Because I need to move forward. I can't remain on the spot. So if the minister has come out to tell you the growth in the economy, I've just told you earlier on that those facts are supported by data. And like I said earlier on, that data collection has nothing to do with how I feel as a citizen or the economic challenges I'm going through. It's a different ball game. If you are collecting the data on the cost of living, it's different from a GDP.
So if we are to get you correctly, that data is in isolation of the current realities of Nigerians.
Pardon?
If we are to get you correctly, that data is in isolation of the current reality of Nigerians.
It's just what we know.
Did you get me, sir?
No,
you said the GDP is different from cost of living or standard of living and not necessarily a reflection of what the average Nigerian is going through. So I'm trying to paraphrase what you are saying. Yes. So that data is in isolation of what the average Nigeria is going through.
You said that, Paul.
Is that what you're saying?
That data is about a growth in a sector of the economy. And don't forget, in that economy, hold on, Dapo, in that economy today, Dapo,
I'm with you, sir.
I have the floor. In that economy today, we are celebrating the launch of a Dangote refinery. That refinery launch could have also impacted in that growth, even though we have not started seeing the products. But on paper, on economic indices for measurement, it's there. But practically is what we are waiting for. So if I've built a house now, for example, if I've built a house and my building is standing and there are no tenants yet in that house to benefit from the house, you can't say that house is a waste, because in future people are going to move into that building. It's going to house people. So that is exactly what the minister is telling us. That look, this is the situation. So by the time we move into it, we'll start reaping the benefit. So the data you are giving about the growth in the oil industry, I'm aware as I speak to you that a lot of oil stakeholders are expanding their businesses.
All right. At this point, Mr. Ekujuni, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I understand that we really need to go on a commercial break. We will definitely pick up when we get back. At this point, let's go on a quick commercial break. When we return, we will pick up. Do stay with us. Many thanks for staying with us. This, of course, is still Politics HQ on News Central Television, and we are discussing the state of the Nigerian economy at the moment. Well, we still have our guest who are definitely with us to shed more light on this. But I would like to bring in Mazi Iroegbu, on this one. I mean, before we went on that break, I would like to believe that, Mazi, you saw and you had some of the things Nelson has said, and also Mr. Adeniran did say. I saw that you are even reacting. I would like to know exactly your reaction to that. Given the fact that the Honorable Minister also noted that sectors such as transportation, wholesale, retail trade, and manufacturing had experienced slower growth. Your take?
Well, thank you very much once again. Up till now, we have not heard from Nelson how he's faring, but it's okay, because we're all Nigerians, we're all in this country, and we know what the situation of the country is. I am not given to playing to the gallery. I am not given to all of those academic exercises that the MBS and, of course, Mr. Nelson wants us to go to. I'm not interested in that. The state of the economy of our country is in shambles, and there's no direction. It is a year plus, and we're still being told some lies. This government is already has already betrayed everything that he said to Nigeria. The issue of no subsidy. We now know that subsidy is being paid. We also know that the NNPC has come out to say to us that it's owing over 6.
Mazi Iroegbu, I think we have a bit of connectivity issues. Mazi Iroegbu, can you hear me?
I can hear you clearly.
All right, we lost you for a moment. You might just want to pick up.
Okay, you lost me. Okay. Well, my point is clear that I am not given to academic exercises that Nelson and the NBS and who want us to. The issue here is that there is a trust deficit from this government, from the government end. Everything the government has said to Nigerians turns out to be false. The issue of subsidy is gone. It's a lie. Subsidy is being paid for. The issue of the economy of our...
Let's go.
Mazi Iroegbu, I think we, of course, having a bit of connectivity issues with Mazi Iroegbu. Let me bring in Nelson into the conversation.
That's it again. I'm here.
Okay, I understand that we have Mazi. Are you back?
Sorry, I was lost. Yes, I'm back.
Okay.
If you can hear me.
Mazi, okay, we lost you for a moment. Please kindly pick up.
Yes,
I'm also here.
I'm back. The point I'm making clearly is simple, that the state of our country, the economy of our country is at the present state in shambles. All right? So there's no beating about the bush here and wanting to confuse us with data from NBS and all of that. That's not what we're looking for. We have a government that is still in power for at least is beyond 1 year now. So we should be expecting some basic things. So government says
Mazi Dickson, let's look at some of the
that we are still paying for that subsidy, and that we are paying even more than what it used to be. And Nigerians are going through serious pain, really, because of the so-called subsidy is gone. So I think, sincerely, if there's anything that the government should be doing now, the government ought to be telling Nigerians, beyond the issue of NBS data that is released and all of that, the GDP and all of that, they should begin to tell us what new things that they are doing to better the lives of the Nigerian people. That should be more paramount, really, than really now all those fake data that is coming out from government. This government has lost trust of the Nigerian people. That's what's important. And it is dangerous to continue to think that we'll, continue to take the Nigerian people for granted. The state will find ourselves. This government is playing with fire. Because when hunger keeps biting and people cannot find solution to food, then
all right.
they may take laws into their hands. And unfortunately, like I said, there's no plan in place whatsoever. 1 year after, we're still hearing stories upon stories, all fake stories.
All right, Mazi Dickson, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Let's give Mr. Adeniran some, time to, of course, respond to some things. Mazi said that it appears there's no concrete plan in place, to really salvage Nigerians from what they're going through at the moment. Do you also share that thought?
Apparently, Mazi Dickson is angry with the government, the way the government is handling things. But then there are technicalities of governance itself. We have to look at the economic indices. If we don't look at it, we just be living in self-denial. And that will not help us in near future because it will gravitate towards state collapse. And that is not what anybody wants. There was an administration that printed money in order to sustain the economy or the value of the naira. That is not good economic policy. We can always want to sound good in the eyes of the public. Government can always try to sound good in the eyes of the economy, even when the economy is not performing well. They will go and borrow to fleshing up the economic indices to make it look good and nice. And as a matter of fact, if if the landing cost of fuel is 1,200, government can decide to borrow and subsidize it and sell it to 200 naira by giving 1,000 naira to every individual that purchases, 1 liter of fuel. That does not mean that the economy is good. That does not mean that we have money in our pocket. That does not mean that all is well. We are borrowing for the future. If we borrow to give Nigerians, that is not a good economy. It will only let a lot of people become so lazy and lethargic in their economic activities. The reason why state governors have not been very creative, why they have not been forthcoming in the generation of IGR, is because they are being spoon-fed by the federal government. Instead of federal government giving more money to state government, they could have established, industrial estates where individual Nigerian entrepreneurs, the SMEs, will be able to take care of their economic activities. So basically, we should look at the technicalities of governance before we make general statements. But then people have to be good, people have to feel good within their own country and don't feel like destitute at every level of their own day-to-day living.
All right. Let me just pick you on the last thing you said. You said people have to be good and feel good, in their own country. Direct question to you. Do you feel good with the state of the economy?
That's why I'm saying that it's not completely good. But since I've never, worked for government, and I've never earned salary from other places. I've always been my own boss. So I don't really feel too bad. But then a lot of people are not feeling as good as I could have felt, because I told people that, look, you have to reduce your consumption once the economy nosedive the way we are experiencing it. You have to increase your economic activities or reduce your consumption. That is the only way you can strike equilibrium. But if you want to live the way you are living under a regime or an administration that has been lascivious, that has been getting money to make you feel good, without you working hard enough, a lot of Nigerians have become so lethargic at engaging in hard work. Some of them have, they depend on handouts from those who are engaging in serious economic activity. That does not make them creative. Many of the salary earners go to the ministries. Many of them are idle, and they are not, they are not retrenched just because they are working for government. And the government is not creative enough to make them productive, to make them effective, to make them efficient. Now, once they are not that efficient, then there will be shortfall in the amount of resources that will save through the activities of those who are working in those sectors.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Mr. Adeniran. You gave an analysis. You said that in times like this, you boost your earnings and drop your consumption. We've also seen a situation where the government has said time and time again that be patient with us, tighten your belts, hold on, things will get better. How long do you think an average Nigerian can persevere?
When you look at construction, you can use construction just like Nelson used the other time. If you have to plant seed, it has to germinate. During those periods, you are making progress in your familiar economy, okay? But it will not show until there is fruition. When the fruits begin to come out and you harvest from your farm and everybody is eating and enjoying themselves, they will forget that they have gone through the period of hunger. Okay, so that is what is happening. Because
you are very confident in these policies of the current administration.
To the extent that I understand economy, for the majority of Nigerians who do not understand what is going on, the technicalities of the economy, they will not understand that there is this period that they have to go through this hardship. We don't want it. But then we don't have other means of generating resources to feather the nest of the nation.
Mr. Adeniran, are you there? Well, I think we lost our connectivity there with Mr. Adeniran. I hope we'll be able to get him back in the course of the conversation. But right now, let's go on a quick break. When we return, we will pick up. Stay with us. Many thanks for staying with us. This is still Politics HQ on News Central Television. And we are discussing the state of the Nigerian economy. I still have my guest with me. Staying on. But joining the conversation right now is Mr. Shola Omolayo. He's a public affairs analyst who also joins virtually. Thank you for your time, Mr. Omolayo. Okay, I understand that we are still trying to connect with him, but let's move to Mazi on this one. Hopefully we'll be able to bring Mr. Omolayo on. Now, Mazi Iroegbu, I know you have a few things to say, in reaction to some of the things Mr. Adeniran said. But my question to you is this. Looking at the current policies of the administration in Nigeria, the current administration, and the fact that it keeps telling Nigerians to be patient and that some of these policies are necessary, do you see any results in the nearest future?
Sincerely, I don't see anything good coming from this very government so far, because the government is not leading by example. if you are saying to the Nigerian people that the situation of the country is bad, the economy is in shambles and all of that, we should tighten our belt, you should lead by example. The government is living large, all right, even against the will of the Nigerian people. When we revolt against some of the policies that government embarks upon and all of that, and the Nigerian people speak up or protest, this government demonizes the Nigerian people, criminalizes our protests against the policies that is put us in this terrible state that we found ourselves. So sincerely, there's nothing so far that this government has shown for us to have hope that the policies so-called, the economic plan so-called, that there is a future that will be better for the Nigerian people. There's nothing like that on the table. Because the government should have been leading by example, which it is not. And that's the challenge here. That is why so many of us are very, very, very embittered by everyday people coming to reel out all of these data that NBS has reeled out.
All right, Mazi Dickson, let me leave you for a moment. Let me bring in Mr. Omolayo into the conversation. Now, because we are pressed for time, I would ask you directly. The Dangote refinery is up. A lot of Nigerians, are hoping that that would have some sort of impact on the availability and the cost of the premium motor spirits especially. But right now, the price, the pump price is still a cutthroat. Now, my question is, do you see the Dangote refinery having any direct impact on the cost per liter of the premium motor spirits, which of course is the lifeline of the Nigerian economy? I understand that we have lost a connection there with Mr. Omolayo. Let me direct that question to Mazi Dickson Iroegbu. The Dangote refinery, do you see it having any direct impact on Nigerians, particularly when it comes to the cost per liter? Will it go down than what it used to be?
There's no signs like that. In fact, it may even be more expensive because what we're seeing, just ask yourself, right, by knowing this government and some of the things that they have done in the past 1 year, that the very day the Dangote refinery came up with announcing that now it can produce PMS and all of that and everything that women need, then suddenly we now experience what we're experiencing now. So by every means, there's no sign whatsoever that the Dangote refinery would help, reduce the price of PMS. I've not seen it. Government has not told us in any way that that was going to happen or that is going to happen. So I maintain that this government has no plan in place. We cannot be depending on the business of a private of an individual to now discuss whether the government is going to do well or not. No, it is the policies. What policies has this government put in place to help the likes of the Dangote refinery and other private sector businesses to have, that thing that you are looking out for? The enabling environment is not there. The insecurity situation is skyrocketing by the day. And the inconsistency of the government and all of that, the body language of the government and all of it is not in any way showing the direction that you want us to see the Dangote refinery possibly going to bring us to. Is the president of Nigeria not the minister of petroleum? Have we asked ourselves, what has he said about the state of that sector? We haven't heard anything. So I don't see anything. It's just that the Nigerian people seem to have been defeated. And
is it about the? I'm sorry, because protest, I mean this conversation. So, I'm sorry, this conversation that as regards the Nigerian people came up at some place, and then someone said it's because the Nigerian people have the ability to adjust and keep adjusting and adjusting and adjusting. There would always be space to adjust, and for that reason, maybe politicians understand this trend and maybe do what they like. Is that so?
We have adjusted enough already, and that is why when we protested to express that we have been pushed to the extreme now, what has government done? Government has criminalized our crying out against the state of the country. Now it is felony to protest in Nigeria.
All right, I would like to bring in
People
Mr.
are put in
Adeniran.
jail
I'm sorry to
now
interrupt.
because we protested against in our system, in our country.
All right, let me quickly bring in Mr. Adeniran because we need to go. 30 seconds.
Yes. You see, the Nigerian economy is comprised of the private and public, institutions. Okay, we have most of the banking sectors are private. Most of the insurance sectors are private. Most of the industrial sector is the real sector of the economy are private. So government have to depend on what the private sector can bring. Government can also depend on what Nigerians in the diaspora can contribute to the GDP that we are talking about. And the Nigerians in the diaspora are actually contributing so much to the economy. So we cannot discountenance what Dangote refinery will contribute to Nigerian economy. And that might be the reason why the CEO of Dangote, the chairman of Dangote, came out to say that it is the National Economic Council or maybe that will determine the price.
I'm sorry, we need to go. I'm sorry, we need to go. We sincerely apologize for interrupting you, but we really need to go, gentlemen.
We are too many on the set. So next time, just let us have enough people that can just manage the time well.
Of course, thank you so much. We appreciate you and we respect the opinion of everyone. But once again, thank you for your time. Nelson Ekujuni, political analyst, who earlier joined virtually from Lagos. We also have Debo Adeniran, chairman of the Center for Anti-Corruption and Open Leadership. Mazi Dickson Iroegbu, convener, Indigenous People of Nigeria. And Shola Omolayo, public affairs analyst, who unfortunately we lost his connection and we couldn't hear him. But gentlemen, thank you so much for your time.
It's my pleasure.
We hope to have you again. And that's a wrap on the show tonight. In case you missed out, you can actually catch up on our social media platform, particularly YouTube. That's News Central TV. You can also choose to follow us across socials at News Central TV. You can follow me personally at Dakbo at Digboy. The opinions of our guests remains theirs and not that of News Central. Good night.